So today's OCD FAQ is about a question that comes up a lot, and essentially it comes up in many forms, but essentially the question is it normal to experience lots of anxiety when you start cutting out compulsion? There's no simple, straightforward answer to this, so I'm going to talk about three things that are worth considering. Number one, this question is useful to look at because you can start to see OCD at work. OCD at work beyond the symptoms that we might think we're struggling with. Because OCD is really all about patterns. OCD is a reaction to uncertainty and anxiety and other feelings we don't like. We try to cope with and check on and control them. We want to get rid of anxiety. But that's really all OCD is. OCD is about experiencing anxiety and then engaging in compulsions to get rid of it. So it's really important to make sure that recovery isn't just about engaging in new compulsions, even if those compulsions are, I started to cut out compulsions, now I'm experiencing anxiety, how can I get rid of that anxiety? And so really this question often ends up being a reassurance-seeking question. We want to know that we're going to get rid of anxiety. We want to know that we're going to recover. We want to know that this is all part of the process and there's not some bigger medical issue at work here. But that is OCD at work. So this is a really useful opportunity to see that, to see the patterns, how OCD infects our lives. The second thing to consider with this is anxiety, and that anxiety isn't a bad thing. If we avoid anxiety all the time, eventually everything makes us anxious. It's just like how if we avoid sweating, eventually everything makes us sweat. And so really I'd encourage you to look at this from a physical fitness perspective, because when we're changing our brain, just like changing any other part of our body, the physics of fitness are at work. So just like somebody who has never run before, if they start to run, it's going to be an incredibly excruciating experience. Their heart's going to be pounding, their lungs are going to be heaving, they're going to be sweating, they're going to want to vomit, all of their muscles are going to ache, they're going to have a headache, it's going to feel terrible, they're going to feel terrible the next day. But if they keep that up, and they work with somebody who knows what they're doing and they progressively increase the distance that they're running, they're going to start to be able to run further. They're going to be able to not experience all those terrible things they were experiencing at first because they don't have a history of running, and they're actually going to start to like it. The same is true when we're approaching mental health and fitness. You're going to do the things that you find challenging. And this is for OCD, like I said, is all about trying to get rid of anxiety. So for years, just like I did this for years, I would experience anxiety, any other feeling I don't like, and then I would try to get rid of it. I would engage in all sorts of compulsions. I would spend my entire day engaging in compulsions to not feel anxiety. Of course, the result of that is I would experience anxiety even more. Now you're going to go in the opposite direction. So that's going to involve actually exposing yourself to anxiety and learning how to get comfortable with it, learning how to experience that in a healthy way and not react with compulsions. And the third thing I want to talk about, and this is where the question and the answer get a little complicated, is that it's entirely possible that you might have started in the wrong place with recovery. And what I mean by that, let's go back to the physical fitness and particularly the running analogy there. Say you were somebody who's never run before in your life, ever, and you want to start running a marathon. You decide, I am going to be a marathon runner, because that's what fitness is all about, running marathons. So you go out there and you run a marathon. And of course, because you've never run before, you're probably going to injure yourself very quickly. You will not even come close to running the marathon. The marathon is your end goal. And to get to the point where you can run a marathon, you have to do a lot of different things to build up your strength, build up your abilities, make changes throughout your life to support this new direction that you're going in and to support all the changes that you're making in your lifestyle. It's going to require changes at work, changes in relationships, changes in how you eat, how you sleep, what you do in your spare time, everything. Recovery from a mental illness is no different. You need to start small and build your way up. So if you feel like you're really struggling with the anxiety as you're starting to cut out compulsions, my question to you would be, are you starting with something that's a very simple change that seems like something that doesn't bother you? The things that bother you the most are probably going to be the things that you learn how to cut out or deal with the last. Start small. Think about it as somebody who's starting to run for the very first time. You will get to the point where you are running marathons, but right now you need to learn how to run half a kilometer. If you can learn how to run half a kilometer and get really effective at that, you're going to be able to run longer distances. And this is where kind of the subjective, complex, and abstract elements of figuring out this question comes into play, because, like I said with the second point, you do want to expose yourself to anxiety and learn how to deal with it in a healthy way, learn how to get comfortable with it, learn that it's not this terrible thing that you need to avoid, that it can be part of your life and you can still do healthy things. But You also want to do this in a way that's healthy, just like somebody who's running. If they're going to start running, they want to push their limits, but not so far that they actually prevent themselves from succeeding at their end goals. So it really helps to talk to somebody who's successfully recovered before, talk with your therapist, have a structured program that is going to get you where you want to go and you're going to see progress with, but that you're not going to push yourself so far that you do create barriers for yourself. And that's a tricky thing to figure out because sometimes, especially I know when I was struggling with OCD, all anxiety was too much anxiety. And recovery does require experiencing things and doing things that you have never done before. But work with somebody who has gone that path because it's very difficult to know what to do because our brains end up so bought in to the old OCD way of doing things that it really clouds everything. Right? So when this question is coming up, it is a really useful question to ask. It's a really useful question to think about and really look beyond the question at how OCD plays out in your life and just how recovery is going to happen in general as this very holistic, methodical approach where you're going to progress step by step so that you really do reach that amazing end goal. In the meantime, I wish you all the best with learning how to give anxiety a big hug because this is a tough experience, but you really can get to a point where anxiety is a part of life. It's okay to feel anxiety and it doesn't interfere with you doing the healthy things that you know you want to do.